Okay, guys and girls, get ready for part 2 of how to become a summertime expert crankbait fisherman. Line size. Line size is a very critical thing to think about to become an expert crankbait fisherman. Crankbaits will run deeper the smaller the line. So in other words, if you've got a crankbait and you're fishing on 12-pound test line that's running, let's say, 10 foot deep, you want that bait to run a little bit deeper, you move down from 12-pound line to 10 to 8 to 6, and you're going to get quite a bit more depth out of it. It's very, very critical. If you're fishing a situation where you don't want your crankbait to run quite as deep, boy, I got that one in a mess, didn't I? Look at that ugly thing. I got some of that yucky moss on that one. This is one good time when it's nice not to have barbs on there. It's a lot easier to get all that stuff off. If you're in my boat and fishing with me and you get all that green junk on there, do not throw it in the bottom of my boat, okay? But if you're fishing, you want a crankbait, say you're fishing over grass, you want that bait to tick the top of that grass. We're going to go do that here in just a little bit. Going to go fish over some tops of some grass, see if we can get a bite or two that way, because that's another great location to look for is where you find grass. You find that grass on your locator, and then you want to find a crankbait that will tick the top of it. And that's a combination of the size of the crankbait, the lip of the crankbait, and also the size line you have on. If you find that your crankbait is digging down into the grass, you can move to heavier line. That'll keep it up, won't let it go quite so deep. And sometimes that'll make it where it'll just tip. Sometimes moving from 12 to 15-pound tests or 15 to 17 or 20 can make a difference. Sometimes you can even move to 25-pound tests. Now, I use High Seas Grand Slam green, and this green line is all but invisible underwater. You cannot hardly see that underwater. A lot of people like fluorocarbon line or fluorocarbon leader. That's fine because that line is supposedly invisible underwater. So you can get by with moving up to even 25-pound test line to keep your bait from going quite so deep. So it keeps right up top of that grass, just barely ticking that grass. And we're going to talk about some other things we fish the grass, but the line size is very, very key. You want to go deeper, lighter line. Early in the year, I've seen guys throwing crankbaits on 4- and 6-pound test line just to get that crankbait down as deep as possible. And generally when they're getting it down, they're getting a suspended crankbait that'll go down and stay in one spot, and they just barely move it. All right, I'm gonna make 1 or 2 more throws. We've caught 7 fish here without moving the boat. That's pretty good. Well, we caught 5 and lost a couple. I saw them. I count them if I see them. Barbless hook rules. Hey, I'm gonna throw them back anyway. That's Jimmy's rules. My boat, I'm making rules, okay? You got a problem with that? There's one. Right on my rod tip. Had that much line out when he hit. Right there, that's it. And look at how he's got that bait down in his throat. I mean, down in his throat. I'm going to push the button a little bit. If that had been a big one, I would have pushed the button immediately. But since he wasn't very big, I went ahead. That's pretty nice. Look how fat that girl is. That's a little girl fish there, probably. She's a lot healthier. You notice how careful I am. Of course, with crankbaits, you need to really be careful. I like to smash the barbs down when I'm fishing. I'm fishing tournaments, I know, but since I've quit fishing tournaments, I smash the barbs down. That way, if I do happen to get one in my hook, I can back it back out. Watch Beamer. Beamer? She said, I'm not going to jump at that because you're trying to let everybody make fun of me. Yeah. I caught that one just right on my rod tip. He probably came out of one of those trees I throw at. Now, that one hit up on top of the water. My bait was fouled out. My bait was fouled, and I was shaking it on top of the water trying to get it unhung, and the fish come up here and bit it. Now what does that tell you, sports fans? Take your crankbait off, Jimmy, and throw a topwater bait, right? That's exactly what it tells me. Exactly what it says for me to do. So what are you going to do, Jimmy? Well, we are doing a crankbait vid, so we're going to just leave it on. But in a tournament, that would be a good time to pick your topwater bait up and make a few throws out there with it. Because definitely, good lands. That hook doesn't even have a barb on it. And I still can't hardly get it loose. Isn't that something? I can't get an angle to be able to pull. Jump out, jump out, jump out. Now, if he was in a tournament, he'd have been out 5 minutes ago. I'm gonna check that barb because I think I might not have got that barb all the way down. That hook was pretty hard to get out. Yeah, it's down pretty far. If that was the one, I think that's the one. Check. I think it was the front hook, wasn't it? I can't remember. When you're tying a knot on a crankbait, if the crankbait's got a split ring on it or a snap, you can go ahead and tie a direct cinch down knot like a Jimmy Houston knot. If you're gonna tie directly, Jimmy, 1, 2, 3. I couldn't count to 4 and talk at the same time. Sorry about that. If you're gonna tie one that does not have a split ring on a crankbait, you want to tie a loop knot on there. Now, a loop knot's only about a 70% strength, but a loop knot will give you a lot more action. If you got a split ring or a little small snap on the front of your crankbait, and only on a small crankbait do you really need to use that loop knot. Most everything else, you're better off just using a split ring or a snap. Get that squirt around there so I can cut, left find my pliers, so I can cut that without cutting the line. There we go. We're ready to rock and roll again. All right, I'm going to pull out here and fish some submerged grass, and after that, don't run off, because I want to just visit for about 5 minutes and tell you quite a few things that you need to know to become a summertime expert crankbait fisherman. Find some little individual clumps, like that little individual clump right there is a good place. That's right out in front of my boat. I'm gonna throw around that. You want to look for isolated stuff around the grass and then fish around the isolated stuff. It doesn't matter whether it's grass or what, but isolated grass is very good things to fish around. Find you a crankbait that will go down about to the top of that grass. And you might have to hold your rod up, you might have to hold your rod down. You can make a big adjustment just with your rod tip. Hold your rod down close to the water. Obviously your bait's gonna get down deeper. If it starts getting into the grass, you might wanna move it up. So if it starts getting into the grass, instead of having it down here, I maybe wanna run it up here. That's moving the depth of your crankbait quite a bit. You might even wanna hold it way up here. So you want to feel that grass. That's the real thing. You feel that thing tick that grass. If it's digging into the grass, you want to make some adjustments. You can make adjustments with your rod tip, make adjustments with your line size, make adjustments with the bill on your bait. If square bill, a long bill, deep bill, there's a lot of adjustments you can make, size, but you want that crankbait right around the top of that grass. You want it as close to the top of that grass you can get. Now, just like around trees, they sometimes will come up a long way. You don't want it in the grass, you want it just ticking the top of it. In fact, the best deal is if you can feel it tick that grass, when it ticks it, slow up a little bit, let it back up, and then pull it back down until it ticks the grass again, let it back up. I don't know how much money I've won on a crankbait ticking the top of the grass. Very, very, very good technique. It's a good technique for catching really big fish too. And sometimes when you can find the big fish out on the flats, in deep flats that's got grass on them, sometimes that's a tournament winning combination. Either win it or getting awfully close to it. You don't win, you'll scare the winner's socks off. When it gets in the grass, you want to do what I done just then, which is just jerk really hard. Try to jerk that grass off. Get your bait back up above that grass, and continue with your retrieve. A lot of times when you do that, that's when you'll get a fish. When you jerk that grass off, you start your retrieve back again. That kind of explosion under the water gets a fish's attention. That was a bite right there. I'm just ticking the top of that grass is all I'm doing. And that was a bite. Definitely a bite. But when that happens sometimes, you know, that's a little tick like that, you might think, well, I just missed a little bass or something. It could be the biggest bass of the whole day. They don't always slam into these crankbaits. Sometimes they just barely come up there and flare their gills and suck them in. You don't hardly feel it. Sometimes you don't feel anything. Just all of a sudden you've got a fish on there. So don't let those strikes fool you and you think it's a little bass sometimes. Get right back out there in that same place and give him another opportunity to bite again. Okay, guys and girls, let me wrap this up on helping you become an expert summertime crankbait fisherman. If you just listen to the things we've talked about and look for these kind of places, this summer you're going to catch a lot of fish on a crankbait. You're going to become an expert crankbait fisherman. A few other things I want to kind of throw into there. One, we have been fishing with an American Original deep smoothie. Now, they make a shallow smoothie also, and one of the big deals on a shallow smoothie, and I'll just go ahead and pull this out of the box right here, out of the package that it comes in, is that most of the shallow smoothies, of course, are square bill. And your square bill baits are not going to run nearly as deep. And if you'll notice, the square bill, now these are made for specific purposes. Basically, they're made to fish around a lot of brush, a lot of cover. You can take this bait and run it down through brush piles, and that square bill will hit that brush and bounce off of it. Whereas a long bill, you notice what I've got here on this bait I've been fishing with is a long bill. And the long bill on there is going to dig down into some of that stuff, and it's going to come up here and it'll get down in the brush and it'll get hung up a lot more. This square bill is designed to fish around a lot of heavy cover. The square bill also has got a little bit different wobble to it. So, but anyway, your square bill, if you're going to fish really heavy cover, a square bill is a lot better to fish. The shallow smoothie, obviously, again, square bill for shallower water. You know, that's why you call one shallow and one deep. Your square bill is going to work a lot better than that. Now, let me tell you something else you want to think about if you're fishing around a lot of cover. You'll notice when you lay that bait back that these two hooks are going to lay back against the body and they're not going to get hung up too much. This is the hook that gets hung up. You can actually take your cutters, take your side cutters, and cut that bottom hook off, where now this is smooth and you don't have that bottom hook sticking down. Now, will you lose a fish every now and then because you have that bottom hook? It's possible. But really, you're not going to lose very many. Highly unlikely that you'll lose any. You still got a lot of hooks there. This back hook, of course, is going to be flying back here like this as you're cranking that thing in. So this is the one that's going to get hung up. So if you're fishing an area that's got a lot of wood, a lot of places you can get hung up, you might want to just cut that. Lay your hook up, just like I've done right there. Lay your hook up and cut that bottom part off. Take your needle nose. Now you turn the treble into a double is exactly what you've done. So that works really good. All right, the last thing I wanted to show you to really turn you into an expert summertime fisherman is my favorite color. That is a red ear. The red ear has got a red eye. It's colored up like a red-eared sunfish. It's got blue, it's got green, it's got orange on the belly. Let me tell you, it's dynamite. This is old One Eye right here. I probably caught 200-300 fish on this one bait. If you'll look, the eye on the other side is missing. I call him old One Eye. I tie him on. You can see it's just all bent up. You can see it, and all the paint's about off of him. But that is a red-eared sunfish. That is my very favorite color. I've caught bass up to and a little bit over 11 pounds on this very bait right here. Red-eared sunfish. One I caught him on today I think was called a hack daddy or a hack baby or something like that, the color. But just same this bait right here. The smaller size American Original crankbait. Guys and girls, go out there. Now you know enough to become an expert crankbait fisherman, certainly an expert summertime crankbait fisherman. Look for these type areas, throw the baits, work them the way I've told you, and I promise you, you're going to catch a lot of fish. That's a wrap. Remember, I sure do love you. Kiss one for me.